Fat is bad for you.
I just pop a pill and I'm fine.
Meat is murder. It's time for bad food punishment. It's time for real nourishment. It's time for the nutrition heretic.
The following program is provided as information only and may not be construed as medical or health advice. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. No action or inaction should be taken solely on the basis of the information provided here. Please consult with a licensed healthcare professional or doctor on any matter relating to your health and well-being. Hello and welcome to the Nutrition Heretic. This is Adrienne Hugh, the Nutrition Heretic. Today in the studio, I have my good friend Stephanie Wallace. She is a pet expert, former vet tech and trainer. Is that what you did?
Yes, I did do training.
And now you run a company called Lava Dogs Treats and Things. She makes the cutest, healthiest dog treats I've ever seen, because I once considered getting a dog for myself. And this was after I found what worked for my health. And I realized that if I did get a dog, which I still haven't done, that I would not feed them kibble or canned food. I would want to go with something that mirrored my beliefs about how I should feed myself, because I think that we can bullshit ourselves as much as we want about what comes in a box that's good for us and better than what has been on the planet coexisting with us for millennia. But when it comes to dogs and cats and all the other wild creatures, they're not getting in a kitchen. They're not eating out of cans in the wild or boxes. So we have to really take their health seriously. And that's why I invited Stephanie to be here and to talk about these things. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your background, where you started. Talk to me a little bit about the whole vet tech thing, because I found that fascinating.
Well, I have always been someone that liked animals. I am the kid that brought home the strays, the jackrabbits, the lizards, the cats. Played doctor. My poor mother, bless her heart. So it's like inherent. If we didn't find a stray dog, we found a dog and called it a stray in hopes that we could keep it. But I was always raised with dogs and animals. My first job was with horses when I was 12. And I drove a horse and carriage, and I knew then that I wanted to be with animals. After that, when I was 18, I got a job at a wild animal park, a lot like SeaWorld, but it had more of an educational premise to it, which I liked. And I became a trainer. I worked with the ungulates, which are the hoofed animals, rhinos, giraffes, camels, and then I also fed the big cats and birds of prey. And it was education. Like, we had a rhino horn, and we'd sit out and talk about how their habitat was being destroyed, explain to them why they're being dehorned and killed, and how it is the same as the hair and nails. So back in the 90s, I was still doing that. But through working in that, I also got to work with the vets at that time. And I knew that that was the caretaking and the nurturing side of it was something I wanted to do. So after I left there, quite honestly, it just didn't pay enough to survive on, and another company that was more amusement park based took over, and I no longer wanted to participate in their level and ideals of care. That I went to vet tech school, and I became certified. You have to do a lot of hours in internships. I got to work with some amazing veterinarians. I got to do a little bit of large animal vet tech. I got to see the Clydesdales and from Budweiser. They're amazing, beautiful animals, and their owners are incredible.
Is being a vet tech the equivalent of being a nurse for humans?
It is. We would do like the dentals, the extractions. We'd assist in surgery. We would give the shots, do the worming. You know, if we had like a hit by car come in, we'd do the IVs, prep them for surgery, do things like that. We were responsible for the x-rays, filling the prescriptions, cleaning, grooming, boarding, cleaning pens, walking. You basically did everything and, helped the doctors out.
Right.
And I'm originally from California, and I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and when I got into the veterinary technician, it was in Vallejo, California, and it's a socioeconomically depressed area, had a high crime rate. And unfortunately, it was at the time that pit fighting and dog fighting had become big. And actually, one of my dogs was taken out of my backyard and used as a bait dog. I was left to identify him only by his collar.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so it was really hard because I had gone into a profession where I wanted to love and take care of animals. And I ended up treating a lot of fighting dogs and a lot of victims of dogs bites. And in the veterinary world, you can't discriminate. And the dog was the helpless victim.
Right.
So we would treat him. And we also I didn't count on the human factor of being a veterinary technician. So I was given litters of kittens to euthanize and puppies, or people that just neglected their dogs or mistreated them. And it was really hard for me. So I had the best intentions, but it was really jading me on humankind.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
Especially where I was at. So I ended up leaving it.
If you know Stephanie, she's not this kind of pie-eyed, crunchy person, who's just looking for something to whine about. This is like serious business she's talking about here. I think anybody with any kind of compassion for anything, any living thing at all, or even other humans, is touched on this level. It's not. This isn't just you being overly sensitive to the plight of animals. No,
the final straw, my last day, we actually had a dog come in that was used as a bait dog, and degloving is when the skin is separated from the muscle and nerves. Not to be graphic, this dog from its mid neck all the way. Its entire head of skin was hanging off of the muzzle from a dog fight, and we were instructed to repair it and give it back to the owner, who we knew did dog fighting because his other dogs, and we'd report it, and that's all we can do. And that was kind of the end for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't, in good heart, repair a dog.
Just to give it back to the same situation. Yeah. And
that was an ongoing thing. And for morally, as much as I loved all the other animals I took care of, morally just helping that one family, in my heart, I couldn't, that's not why I got into it. So I did leave, and then I went on, but I always had animals. I went to Sacramento. I trained a couple dogs and stuff, but the reason I started the dog bone company is I adopted a dog, a husky Malamute, from a vet. He was a soldier, and he had just been deployed over to Afghanistan, and his wife had just had their first baby, and he couldn't handle his hyper little 6-month husky Malamute, Kaya. So I adopted her, and I promised, to keep her and take care of her. And shortly afterwards, she developed an autoimmune disease. And I found her in the middle of the night, banging into walls. She had a glaucoma attack and gone blind. So I took her to the ER vet, and let me preface this by saying I didn't have a great job, and my annual income was probably $32,000. And I was struggling. It was definitely check to check. By the time I was done with Kaya treating her, it was over $6,000.
Ouch.
So I am a true animal lover,
right?
But I had made a promise to a soldier that just left his family too, that I wouldn't put her down.
Right.
And she was a great dog.
She
ended up going completely blind, but in the course of it, she couldn't have any wheat, anything that caused inflammation, anything like that. And in trying, and it wasn't a time that it was well known for people or dogs.
Right.
So in the time that I went to do that, the treats were so insanely expensive along with the food. And I had to give her medicine when she'd have attacks 21 times a day was the most. So I went to the bookstore and I got like a gluten-free paleo cookbook, screwed up a lot of recipes, and then developed the dog bones. But that's when I started to realize that diet played a big role, not just in people, but dogs too. And I was the normal person that just thought, oh, it's, fluffy and
whatever Iams
Bonzo.
says.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Iams knows best.
Yeah, I didn't think, I never put a lot of thought into it until I had to. And I literally saw the direct effects of bad nutrition and improper ingredients and how they do affect our animals.
Yeah, because dogs aren't baking bread.
No, they're not. They're not.
They're not boiling up pots of rice.
No, and if they are, they're eating all those lovely hormone-induced chickens and stuff. So yummy.
Yum.
So,
but yeah, it's really important, and for all intents and purposes, they're carnivores.
exactly.
And,
We do have people that want to feed them vegan and vegetarian
diet.
diet.
Don't even get me started.
I know.
Talk about cruelty to animals. Jeez.
Everybody, I have several people that come to my booth or contact me on my Etsy store and ask me if I make vegan and vegetarian bones. And it's hard to remain professional, but I do kindly answer that no, I don't.
You aim to feed them their natural diet.
Yes. Please look at our Nordic breeds and our wolves because they're direct descendants and they're not eating roots and twigs and nuts.
That's like one time I got approached by a woman at the vegetable co-op that I belonged to, and she was fascinated that I was Jamaican, and she says, "So I went to this vegan restaurant and I had vegan oxtails."
How do you have that?
I'm like, really?
How does that work?
Well, apparently you start with a stick of sugarcane, wrap it in tempeh or something, and then make it in a lovely sage sauce. Sage being an herb I've never seen a Jamaican cook with.
Wait, that's not even the same region.
Oh
because that's what all the oxtails come from. Sugar cane.
Yes, with
it's like that
wrapped in
puppy
soy.
Dog tails and.
I was so beside myself. It's like, do I laugh in her face? Do I cry?
For meds?
I was like, well, really? I was like, do I just slap her? You know, like, come on. And after a while, you just you're like, really?
How is that even termed an oxtail?
I don't know, but just find another word for it. See, this is what I'm saying is just find another word for it. Crap on a stick. Okay? That's in the sage sauce. So anyway,
vegan oxtail. I might have to make a vegan oxtail bone. I can't even joke about that. I mean, I could.
So, okay. So actually, I have to tell you, if you come to the Big Island of Hawaii, come up to our town, Waimea, and come up on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And you'll see Stephanie in her element. Selling her dog bones. She actually does smoked bones, but then she does these cute little specialty items.
I do.
Tell them what you made for Thanksgiving.
So I want to start this by saying I don't have kids. So
this is her outlet.
It's my outlet. I took like a bacon peanut butter dough for my bones and I molded little tiny turkeys. Oh my gosh, they were so cute. I even roasted them. They look like roasted turkeys. They had the legs and everything. But because I wanted them to have turkey dinner too.
Right. So and then recently you made hamburgers.
I did. I made hamburgers.
Like, what was that thing that you used for the lettuce? What was it?
Oh, I made a leather out of broccoli stems and spinach, organic spinach. And then the tomato was a beet leather. So it was pureed beet.
Dogs can't have tomatoes?
Well, they can, but it was one more thing I could play with.
And any chance she gets to play with something.
I know.
With food. So yeah, she makes these wonderful treats, and you sell a lot of this stuff on your Etsy store too, right? You
I
have,
do.
Like Valentine's Day. She made Peeps for Easter.
Peep tarts. I made Peep tarts. Why have a Pop Tart when you can have a Peep tart? Those were so much fun. So this week, I just got my donut pan. I'm so excited. So I'm sitting there thinking, I can't just make plain donuts. So I think...
Say donut again?
Donut.
You said donut.
Donut? Yeah. It's my Cali accent. Donut.
I never noticed that before. That's so cute.
It's a donut. Donut makes sense. So, as you can tell, I'm very uptight and serious.
Yes.
So I think the donut might be like a play on summertime, perhaps an inner tube. I'm not sure.
Ah, yes.
It may have.
Yes.
I'm thinking of a. Well, I can't give it away. You just
I was going to say, you
check
can't
out my Instagram.
Check out our Instagram.
But the one thing I can tell is that I am doing a special bone because we have so many awesome patriotic holidays coming up.
That's what I was going to ask about next.
Yes. I am making a special bone for an organization that takes shelter animals, and they help our veterans that need companion pets and stuff like that adopt them. It's called Pets for Patriots. And so $1 of every bag that I sell is going to go for Pets for Patriots. Knowing me, I'll probably make like a special bone. I have some in mind that half of the proceeds will go for that. Mm-hmm. So if it's like $1, I'd give it 50 cents will go for them.
Awesome. That's really cool. So other than that, let's see. I actually wanted to touch a little bit more on something that you kind of touched on before, which is the whole animal cruelty issue. And obviously it's clearly a problem.
Yes.
However, I also see that there's a lot of propaganda around it for people to get their way, to instill fear, to get people to change the way they eat, to get people to change what they want or what have you. And a lot of this is for profit. This is not, we look at these as this poor animal. Oh, look at that. And then we're finding out that a lot of this stuff is fraud. So one of the things you and I were talking about earlier was this video that's been shown about an orangutan.
Strawberry
the orangutan, speaking via Skype to a deaf girl. And the conversation basically proceeds that Strawberry says to the girl, "So, what's your favorite food?" And the little girl says, "I eat peanut butter." "Well, what's in your peanut butter?" And it's peanuts and palm oil and sugar and palm oil! You're destroying my home, little girl.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What's your gut reaction when you see something like that?
Well,
besides laughter.
First of all, having worked with exotics, and yes, some of them were primates and are apes, they do not conceptualize like that. Mm-hmm. Also, if you've ever watched video of our famous signing Coco the gorilla.
She's the smartest one.
Oh my goodness gracious. She actually is quite amazing.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated with gorillas. But they're even more higher functioning than orangs.
Right.
And if you've ever watched the way Coco signs, it's like someone learning to speak English. It's very target words. It's very broken. And then not only that, she incorporates her own signs.
Yes.
So the vets actually had to find out.
To learn from
her language, and that she may have said something in a certain order, but that's the way she chose to say it. And then they realized, she's saying she's hungry. So for an orangutan, first of all, they don't think that way. And they wouldn't conceptualize that palm oil was destructive.
Right. The thing above their head, basically. Yes. And yeah.
So, that was my first clue that was probably fake. It also came out at a time where they needed something like that to come out. But if you look, actually a lot of people have looked into that, and they did determine that it was all propaganda. Mm-hmm. In fact, CNN released a statement that the orangutan's name wasn't even Strawberry. So,
well, I had a couple of weeks ago, I had Bruce Fife, the coconut oil guy. He's the guy who initially wrote the books about coconut oil. So I asked him about it. And his response was that the soybean industry is so bleeding for attention because everybody realizes that their product is mostly GMO and it's toxic and it screws your hormones and it screws your weight, and if your wife wants to come after you with
too much soy.
if your wife comes at you with a baseball bat in one hand and a frying pan in the other, it might be soy. So he said, and so people are wising up to this now, and they realize that coconut and palm oil accelerate weight loss, help you balance your hormones, help with all these other areas of skincare and anti-aging, yada yada yada. That they've been creating these propaganda pieces to not even necessarily promote them as much as put into question, and devalue the people they lost the market share to, basically.
Yeah.
So it's very telling. And then we also discussed this other video about the monkey that is trained to pick all the coconuts in an entire grove until he exhausts and goes, and then his brother has to take up the job for him.
That is a dedicated monkey.
Yeah.
It's got to be a small grove, I'm telling you.
I know.
Yeah. And then, okay, so here's the other thing. Monkeys, you can't just give them a command and they go at it.
Right.
And
I can't even do that with my 5-year-old.
No, it's like working with a 5-year-old. It's like it might get vacuumed, that room.
Right.
But it's going to be after a lot of protests.
Right.
It's not going to be done right.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and you might have to go over it a bajillion times before it happens.
Right. And things will get destroyed in the process.
Yes. Like coconuts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But, and then like I said, is it worse to have a monkey that enjoys climbing, picking coconuts, or a bunch of people that might be out there in the sun working hard and underpaid? So
right. Well, actually, according to Bruce again, when I asked him about that, he said that the places that he visited, at least, that it seemed that the people were getting paid fair wages for their area of the world.
Yeah, but that's not in every area.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. There's always two sides to every coin.
And I mean, and this is one of the reasons why whenever there's a new buzzword, you know, everybody's got to eat kale. Did you know we have a kale shortage on the island?
No.
Oh yeah, there's a kale shortage because kale is that in demand. A vegetable that nobody knew about 20 years ago is now in so much demand that there is actually a kale shortage because everybody is juicing pounds of kale every day.
Why not just eat it? I don't understand. Why juice it?
There could, in small
benefits.
amounts, there are some benefits. And especially if you've got compromised digestion, you need to rest the digestive system and that kind of stuff.
True.
But people do it to the point that now, as I've mentioned on many episodes, I am starting to see people who are reacting to all of these green leafy vegetables being juiced, being eaten raw. And it's messing up their joints and their thyroids and their digestion.
Well, everything in moderation.
Everybody says that.
I know.
You know, most of the time when somebody says that to me, they got like a donut hanging.
I don't. I ate it before I came. Actually, I didn't. But I made a killer omelet this morning. But
omelet.
I can't get hold of spinach. I'm like...
Yes, I know. It's very hard to get spinach, especially because it's a cool weather crop.
I know.
And we're
not on a cool weather island.
No, not really. But, I mean, our neighborhood is kind of cool.
We need a fair weather friend to get us that cool weather crop.
Only you. Okay, so let's get back to the treats a little bit and what we feed our pets. Are there a couple of key places where you can say people can go ahead even before they get to your Etsy store? What can they do differently for their pets that? And actually, this is somewhat related to a question that one of our listeners has. But what is something that people can do? Maybe the top 2 or 3 things that people can do to feed their pets what they need to. And in particular, let's just focus on dogs. And things that they need to avoid, like that might be potentially toxic.
So I would say the absolute number one thing that every pet owner should do, and I know it sounds a little bit extreme, but most people don't know that pet food is not regulated in the U.S. Not where we get it, not what they put in it, not where they source it, not how it's made, any of it.
Well, there was that big China thing a couple of years back.
Yeah.
More than a couple.
Yeah. If you actually do research, there are so many companies that have produced food that has been killing dogs and making it sick. Milk-bone is one of them.
Ooh,
if you look at the ingredients in Milk-bone, that is the absolute, probably worst thing you can give your dog. It is so full of actual toxins. It is so full of toxins, it is not allowed to be sold in Europe.
Whoa.
But we sell it here.
Because our good old FDA.
And it's cheap, right. So the best thing you can do is before you grab that bag of food, please do research on the company and the ingredients. Find out if there's been any reports. Perfect example. My friend who meant to do well picked up a food from a feed store that they promoted, they liked, and it was made by a veterinarian and it looked really good. And it was just in a generic bag. And he fed it to him and then he had to go away on business and I was going to watch his dogs. When I got there that night, his 2 dogs had been ill. And I had said, hey, what's going on? Have they been sick? And he said, no, but I didn't transition their food over, so they might be upset. I don't know if when you change your brand of food, you need to mix it for a couple of days so their stomachs can accumulate. So I thought, oh, that might be it. So I fed them their dinner, but I hung around because there's a different smell, not to be gross, but when you work in a vet clinic, there's a different smell from poisoning versus sick sometimes. Yes. And I had kind of gotten a smell of it and it didn't look right. Sure enough, his dogs got extremely sick. In fact, I had to keep him in the bathroom and it was so out of control. And his older dog, who's 7, through the course of it, he almost died. Yeah. So I had called, where we got it, said, hey, we're sending it in for testing. And then we both got on the internet and looked, and he had so many reports of this food killing dogs and making them sick. Sure enough, we had asked them, they said, oh, we're sending it in for testing too. They never reported what their testing came back, but it was off the shelves and they don't sell it. And when we kept asking about it, they evade the question, the fact that they don't sell it. But so even the best looking dog food can have some evil, and who knows?
I was going to say, are there a couple of ingredients that people can look for that they might say?
Offhand,
I mean, are there things that are going to look like food on the label, like chocolate? Yeah, I mean, you're not supposed to feed dog chocolate, right?
There's so many chemicals, and if you look up milk bone, you'd be freaked out of what's in it. And it's kind of like people food. It's not even what's in it. It's how they process it to extract that.
Exactly.
And there's remnants to that. So you got to look at that. So also there are foods, like dogs can't have avocado seeds. So if your dog is an avocado eater, please remove the skin and take out the seed because they're both toxic. And it's cumulative, just like chocolate. There is no dose of chocolate. So if your dog accidentally eats chocolate, it's cumulative. One dog might die from a bar, and so like my retriever, my friend was sitting at and accidentally at Christmas time got into a whole bag, and aside from foil coming out, but he was fine. But it's a cumulative, and every dog is different. Chocolate, nutmeg, they can't have grapes, they can't have raisins. There's a lot of websites.
Onions, is it? Or
onions, they shouldn't have onions. Garlic is questionable.
Okay.
There's essential oils if you're someone that uses essential oils with your dog, which is also just like people, is very beneficial. Right. Just like people, you need to make sure it is a good quality grade, therapeutic grade. There is a dosing for dogs. There is too much. There are some, you need to look at them. There are some that are not good for dogs, or not good for some dogs that are on chemo or older. Right. And if you go online, there's I love the magazine, Dogs Naturally. They have a lot of great information and articles, and they talk a lot about essential oils, and they're really good. But so there's, I guess, being an advocate for your dog. And if you can, and I know it, people laugh, if you can make your own dog's food, there's a lot of, Dogs Naturally has recipes. There's a lot of really good websites out there. It's really easy to do. You mix up vegetables and meats, things like that, and you can even make it and stick it ahead in the freezer for 30 days, and then you know what your dog's getting.
Exactly.
Especially if they're older dogs and their stomachs are compromised, stuff like that. Because while the market tries to cater, it's for a general population. Yes. Certain breeds, Great Danes need to be fed differently than a Chihuahua. Yeah. And a Labrador. Different breeds have different, it's just like people. There's no one recipe. So,
and it's getting to know your pet.
Exactly.
When does he look good? Yeah. When is his coat shiny? When are his eyes bright?
Coconut oil is great for dogs. I only use organic coconut oil in all my bones, and I make bone marrow broth. Bone marrow, it's a 2-day process. I cook out that bone marrow. It actually is a gelatin by the time I use it. And I use a lot of fresh herbs and stuff like that. And I use all fresh vegetables. Yeah. The meat is the same meat I eat.
I was going to say, I would assume, and this is, I guess, a 2-part comment / question. First of all, how do you feel about the barf diet, bones and raw food?
I think it's great. Actually,
I've known a lot of people to say that people with show dogs in particular use that diet.
Yes.
And they say that their vet bills go down by over 70% once they switch to that. Because the pet food companies were telling us, oh, you can't feed your dog raw meat because he'll want to eat you.
Yeah. Because that always makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because every time I eat sashimi, I start eating, I'm going to eat that cook. It's like, whatever. Dogs are... So, come on, man. My sister, her dog got cancer and she wanted him around, and she had a vet who also was kind of holistic, even though they were veterinarian. But she'd done research and she found out the raw diet was good, and Skylar did so much better on it that she now adopted another dog and they continued feeding it. It's just like people, when people get cancer, they tell them to eat raw
meat.
Yes. Yeah, meat. Eat meat.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then the other part of that
the dogs need meat.
Yeah, they're
not vegans and they're not vegetarians, and I hate to say it, guys, they don't care where the meat comes from and how it came.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that too, because a friend of mine, she has chihuahuas and they never had a real bone, but I make a lot of bone broth. And particularly my pork bones, I can't give it back to the farmer for the pig to eat, right? So I'm like always looking for people with dogs. Yeah. And I'm like, and so I'm always going to people. Yeah, exactly.
Eat your brother.
Exactly. So,
Jeffrey Dahmer pig.
So, she came over one night and we were, and the dogs were outside, and I said, would you like to give them some bones from the stock that I just made? She's like, they've never had them, but sure, go ahead. So I gave them bones, and it was so instinctive. Yeah. Like when you say they don't care where it came from, like they totally knew what to do with it. Yeah. And they licked that thing clean. I mean, it was really impressive to see.
That's another good point. People, especially with little dogs, want to give their dogs soft food and not give them bones. Their teeth need resistance. Yes. They will rot. They will fall out. They have to have crunchy food. Don't just feed them wet food. They need to have something crunchy. They need bones to chew on. Their teeth need that.
Your smoked bones, you call those the babysitter, is it?
Yes. Actually, I shouldn't say I did. I had so many customers that came back that said, I need another one. I'm going to Hilo for the day, or we're having company, and,
don't want the dog jumping up on the guest.
Banks was gone for like 6 hours with this bone. We didn't see him. So they called him. One of them said, I need another babysitter. And so they come and it's funny because people come weekly. So cause if they're leaving, or they say that their dog doesn't chew up everything. Right. Their instinct is to chew, and it's because it strengthens their teeth. Yeah, yeah. So we give them the babysitter, and mine is smoked, and then it's at a temperature that the marrow stays in and the bone doesn't get brittle.
Nice, yeah. Nice. So the other part I was going to say is that you could probably, because I think for a lot of people right now, they're hearing this and they're just thinking, I can't freaking afford that. It's going to be so expensive, but because a lot of times you could go to a butcher in a supermarket, and they have a bucket load of stuff that scraps that humans don't want, for the pretty packaging, and it's sitting there and it's going to go in the trash anyway. Yeah. And if they sell it to you, it's probably going to be 50 cents a pound, something like that. Like usually there's actually
nominal in our stores here. They actually sell the bones, and it's marked pet food. Yes. Or like the ends of the fish or something, it's marked pet food. Now most people use them as smoked, as soup bones and stuff, but they can't say it's for human, but it's cheap. Yeah, exactly. So don't be afraid of it, I guess is what I'm saying. And don't anticipate that you're not going to have access, because there's everybody's got that one hunter friend who can just, throw a deer bone at the, lower limb or something. Yeah. Have this femur. So, and I promise they're not going to eat you after eating that bone. If they were going to eat you, it was going to happen whether you give them that bone or not. So, please, feed your dogs meat.
Now, have you gotten into the raw milk thing? And this, I don't know if it works the same with dogs as it does for cats. But as kids, we always, at our generation, would see these books with a cat lapping up milk, right? And then IAMS came out and said, don't give your cat milk. It's going to kill the cat.
It doesn't
don't do
kill
it,
him.
right?
But it does give him diarrhea.
I was going to say, well, but
you had to flip the page to see him in the litter box, holding their stomach saying, why did she do it again?
But there's a couple of rules here, though.
Yeah.
Do you know the studies of Pottinger's cats where he has I think it was 4 different cats, and then he gives them different diets.
Yeah.
One has raw milk. One has pasteurized milk. Another one has, I think, evaporated milk, and then he has like reconstituted milk.
Oh yeah,
nasty. Right, so he does these experiments, and he finds that the ones doing the powdered milk are like sterile, basically. Yeah. And with each processing, they have more health problems, and until they become osteoporotic. And then also, or osteoporotic, and then also sterile, and after several generations. But it depends on just how processed it is. The only ones that never had that were the ones on the raw milk.
Yeah.
And when he took the other ones that had all the damage done and put them on raw milk,
it was reversed.
Everything reversed.
Now, that's not to say that milk is bad for cats and dogs.
Right.
You just don't want to feed them copious amounts.
Well, but the other thing is learning how to introduce it.
Exactly.
Because just like you said with your friend with the dog food, and he didn't transition from one brand of dog food to another, the recommendation is always to start with small amounts.
Right.
Just, like a teaspoon mixed with their food at first. And then gradually, and it's funny because I had told that to a friend of mine. She had a cat that was very, very ill, and he was like 22 years, some crazy, like, crypt keeper cat. Yeah. And so this cat was doing really, really poorly, and but she obviously wants to keep her cat around. And we had gone crazy, right? So she wanted to. She had gone out with me to Lancaster County. We used to, I was living in New Jersey, and I'd go out there a couple times a year and pick up milk and meat and butter and all this stuff. And so she had some raw milk in the freezer, and she's like, I'm gonna try and see what happens, because she told me about this, and I'm starting to not trust the IAMS people, and I'm going to try this. So she started giving it to her cat. She said she had 2 cats. And actually she had 3 at the time. First of all of them looked better than ever. And the one who like really hated her boyfriend suddenly became his best friend. Like she totally mellowed out. Her personality was totally different. Didn't have a hormone issue. And like all of them, their coats got better. Like all the pet dander and stuff was going away. Their digestion, all the digestive problems they were having were going away.
Look at all the farm cats. They sit under the cows and stuff and lick up all the milk.
Thank you. And then eat the
mice meat.
Yeah, and this is one of the myths. Thank you for bringing this up. No. One of the myths is that humans are the only animals that drink the milk of another animal. Which goes to show that you have never been on a farm, because every farmer that milks an animal will tell you that the cats and the dogs and the bunnies and everybody shows up to milking time.
They're like, "Ooh, girl."
They're like, "Just spill a little for me."
Pull up to Bessie's butt. No, it's true.
It's so true, though. It just goes to show how removed the average person is from the food chain and understanding where food comes from and how other animals react in the presence of that stuff. By contrast, when farmers tell me about the soy they feed to their cows and so on and so forth, they've got to mask it, they've got to roast it, they've got to crush it, they've got to mix it, they've got to hide it so many different ways just to get the animals to eat it, because it's so foul and it's so instinctive for them to not eat that stuff. Yeah. That they have to really do a lot of doctoring and put something really appetizing with it, because the cow's not going to let himself starve if there's something decent in it.
It's like feeding your kid cough medicine. It better taste like grape syrup. I remember being little, and there was this heinous red one that we'd have to eat, like when I got sick, and it tasted horrible. And my mother would
I don't know.
No, I don't know. It was prescribed. I was sick,
I probably had the same stuff.
Yeah, and it was foul. And Mom had to hold me down. But if I saw it was that purple one.
Yeah, the purple one. I know the purple one. It tastes like grape.
All of a sudden came up with a cough. Mom. It's the same thing.
I need more.
If you have to mask something that much to get an animal to eat it, they probably shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah.
Let's just say, I know it's cheaper, people, but if you gotta mix like human food with your dog's regular food to have them eat it, it may not be the one you want to feed them.
You're right. Exactly.
It also tends to be cheaper
Mhm.
Because if you've ever noticed, like I have not always eaten so healthy in my life, that you realize that when you eat unhealthy, you eat more of it. And because there's like empty nutrients in it,
exactly.
you need more of it. But when you eat right, you're full and it's cheaper because it's what it is. It's the same thing with pet
I mean,
food.
but then also looking at the other side of the equation, like I mentioned, the vet bills go down.
Oh, yeah.
Your medical bills go down. It's the same
your vet's
thing.
gonna hate you.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, you know from $6,000 on a dog you didn't even really want to own necessarily.
Oh, she was so sweet though.
Okay, so here's one of our questions.
Mm-hmm.
And this one comes from our audio editor. I always want to call him my engineer because it just sounds nicer, but audio editor, Nikola Popovich. And he says, is it dangerous to feed the dog our food scraps? We've been doing this forever and no side effects seem to occur, even with the Maltese dog that we have that's supposedly very picky and sensitive to what they eat. Our dog straight up ignores the special and expensive food it's supposed to love and devour and instead chokes them down with just on a good old chicken bone and meat.
First of all, you don't want chicken bones are horrible for dogs.
See, I've heard mixed reviews and I'll tell you
it splinters. And, and it's because it gets really sharp.
Okay. I do not agree with you, but my European friends all say that they feed chicken bones. And what goes back to my experience working with farmers or buying from farmers and talking to them, an old Amish farmer told me once, my grandmother used to say to give a chicken bone to the babies for the teething.
Yeah.
Right. And then later on, he starts hearing like, oh no, you're not supposed to do that because of the splintering factor. What they found out was that the chickens raised in captivity splinter. Raised in these factories splinter. Right. The ones that are on grass and getting the bugs and all that stuff, they're as tough as anybody else's bones.
Yeah. Like if you go to like Kentucky Fried Chicken, that stuff, it breaks into, it's dry.
Oh yeah, it's nasty.
And most people, and like barbecue, because it's the high temperature, it sucks it out really bad. And that's what it is. A vet tech, it was horrible. We'd have so many that were stuck in the throat or pierced it. There's so many other things you can do.
Yes, exactly.
Aside from that, as far as people food,
they're not going to eat you.
They're not going to eat you. And I can't say that I haven't done it, but having said that, you have foods that have things in them that they can't have that are over processed, like soy sauce. Our dogs don't need soy sauce.
Yeah.
They don't need all the salt. We have very salty foods. Dogs are very sensitive. You gotta understand that a Maltese, for them, they're low in weight.
Yes.
Their consumption rate of all that is so minimal that if you fed them just a little bit, they're not wanting that expensive food because it's now a trained behavior. Sorry. But they're going for your food because they have the option. They can be picky and no, it's kind of like kids. They know if dad says no, they're going to go to mom because she always says yes. Same thing. There's better ways to treat a dog. First of all, a dog doesn't know if he got it off of your plate or if it came out of a bag. They don't know the difference. They know the ones they like better.
Right.
So if you found a healthy treat or option, my dog loved apples.
Okay.
My dog loved apples.
Yeah, I've known
She'd
that.
hear me cutting it. So when I was eating dinner, I would put it, if I was inclined to feed them, and I try not to feed them from the table because then you can't tell them, no, don't
Right,
beg.
exactly.
I'd give her apples. She liked pears, things like that. So if you wanted to give them people food, just put something that's healthy and they just know it's coming from you.
Right.
And that they like it.
Okay.
So, but it's not so much that, there's just so many things, especially like fast food and processed food.
Right.
There are
I think he's talking about more real food. If I know
now,
what
I
he's
know
eating,
people that cook steaks for their dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be careful with the salt and stuff. I mean, there are people, and that's what I'm saying. People cook for their dogs, and that's totally cool.
Right.
But I also know people that throw their dog like a big old piece of pizza or the Kentucky Fried Chicken or something.
Yeah, no, I think he's talking about, like more kind of the stuff that we've talked about, the soups and stews and some of the things that we, that's
a lot of those,
for all intents and purposes, real food.
Turmeric and ginger are great for dogs.
Oh yeah, you put turmeric in.
I do. It has an anti-inflammatory. It, it clears out a lot of the toxins and everything like that. So it's good for them. I put it in just about everything.
Right. Now, the other question comes from Angela Wade, and she says that this is actually more of a comment than a question. I think there's more value in finding pet food that is produced locally. But even when it's locally produced pet food and sold in stores, they must still abide by local and federal laws, which apparently there are none.
There are hardly
she's
any.
in Canada, though, I think. So that might be different, or at least she's originally from Canada. We don't have too many local animal barkeries around here. I think what Stephanie's doing is great because most of the time I'm trying to mix up my own food mixes for the animals, and it's difficult to find food that they love. I will definitely look her up to see what she is doing.
Yeah. Me being in business, the only thing that regulates what I put in my bones and my treats and what I do is me and my morals and my values.
Right.
I don't have the health department coming, measuring, asking how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even regulated to have a commissary kitchen or anything,
right.
But I was trained by a chef, and my food is human grade, and I take pride in that.
Do you ever eat your food to be like, oh, is this?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
I do. And actually, it's kind of funny because people ask me if it's dog food. I always say it's human food with the unsafe elements taken out because that's essentially what it is. I had some lady eat the coconut peanut butter. I made like a coconut flour tart with organic peanut butter.
By the way, there's something in Jamaica that looks exactly like that.
Really?
Yeah.
She ate
So if you have any Jamaicans eyeing it up, just make sure you let them know what it is.
I had to put a sign that says this place is for the dogs because people think it's cookies. They're like, oh, my daughter wants some. And I always say, well, that's good. She's not going to get a sugar rush. There's no salt or sugar, so she may not like it, but your dog will.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really fantastic that you're doing that because I think that a lot of people like Angela and like Nicola, they want to just have fun with their pets, and give them something a little bit, but there's so much mystery. And like we talked about before, there's so much marketing that goes around trying to dissuade people from feeding their pets actual food. And it's just like with humans, we can, like I said at the beginning, we can BS ourselves all day about what works for us and and we'll live through the sickness and we'll push through it and we'll convince ourselves that it was never that Pop-Tart, whatever, type thing. But you can't look at an animal and in all good consciousness just be like, screw you, dog. I'm giving this to you because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Because the package said so.
It's just my dog.
I know.
So, yeah, it's, and people look at dogs and pets differently. Some of them are just chained up on the front yard and they're there to guard, and then some are family.
Right.
So, that's the hard part of it all. That was the hard part about being a vet tech was the human factor and your own views. But I personally, my own personal motto with my dogs, my dog bones and treats, and I also make cat treats. I haven't tried those because I'm not a big sardine eater and stuff like that. No offense, people, but I do make a killer. I call them my crack nips. My crack. Instead of catnip treats, it's my crack nip treats, and I make like salmon, shrimp, chicken, and sardine. And I use fresh organic spinach from our farms. My house stinks up to high health.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I also go to Alaska and barter for salmon.
Good for you.
I do, and so I actually have wild caught fresh Alaska salmon treats for dogs. And I coat it in
dogs or cats?
Dogs and cats. My cat would not let me live if I didn't. A common question, how many dogs I have? None. I get asked that. And that's only because my landlords where I rent don't let me have any. Mm-hmm. But I have a cool little cat that thinks she's a dog. She loves to play fetch.
Cool.
Yeah. If I had a dog, if I could have dogs, it would be like that place in Costa Rica that have you seen that? It's like the greatest place in the world.
I have no idea
it's like they take all the stray and abandoned dogs. There's hundreds of them running around on like acres.
Oh, wow.
And they take care of them. They're all neutered, all that. And you go and you can just play with them.
Mm-hmm. Can you adopt them out?
Yes. You go and you just adopt them. So you're in it's like a huge open.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
My house would probably look like that. Although they'd be Great Danes, I do have horses on my land. I go out there every day.
Nice.
I should make horse treats.
Yeah, you should get a carriage and start that business up again.
You know what? Someone mentioned there's a carriage company on the island.
Really?
Like a carriage association.
Ooh, I could see that, I guess.
No.
I mean, up here we've got all
We
the
are in
ranchers and
Paniolo
stuff.
country.
Yeah, so I could see
Yeah.
that. It'd take a hell of a long time to get to Kona.
I need to tell you.
Horse and buggy.
Oh my gosh. Cut down on the gas. Well, no, gas does go up as they walk.
I was going to say, gas will be right in your face.
Yeah. Look, you're depositing on the land. Sorry.
Oh, Stephanie, thank you so much. Or, I usually call you Steffi.
Steffi!
But, yeah, thank you so much for talking about this, because I think it is important. And again, especially people like how I found myself in a situation where I'm like, if I'm going to feed myself better, I'm not going to just give my dog whatever. I have to recognize that animals' needs as well. So I really appreciate you talking about that, but also giving us some of your expertise as a vet tech and seeing some of the cruelty, and then some of the cruelty that's been invented for marketing purposes. Because I think that's really important as we go further into this, and there's more and more propaganda coming out. People need to be able to figure out what's the truth and what's BS, just by sitting and reflecting a little bit on what they've seen, and not have this knee-jerk reaction to everything being.
I think in anything we do in life, it's good not to go on blind.
Oh yeah, totally.
So
totally, absolutely.
I mean, we got to be our own best advocates.
Absolutely, and
Sadly,
unfortunately, we often we're too trusting that someone else is going to do it for us, and that's why we have the podcast, is so that people can have enough background and have enough perspective on the points of view that maybe they've never been introduced to, or that they've never heard before, and understand how a little bit more why some of these other perspectives exist, because it's people don't just, for the most part, don't just make up an opposing view just to be contrarian. It's really many of us
in a world
through experience
run by money. There's always an ulterior motive, mostly, unfortunately.
There we go.
I had to say,
God bless America.
Yeah, for $1. For $1, I'll give you a blessing.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everybody for being on the podcast with us today. And actually, Stephanie, I might have you back sooner rather than later. So we'll talk afterwards.
Have your people come up, people.
I will. All right, then. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you next week on the Nutrition Heretic Podcast. The Nutrition Heretic Podcast is a production of Savor the Journey, LLC. Our audio editor is Nikola Popovich. Our podcast manager is Crystal McLean, and our operations manager is Linda Hansen. I'm your host, Adrian Hugh, the Nutrition Heretic. You can find us at nutritionheretic.com, where you can download the Nutrition Heretic's free shit list of 7 health foods to avoid like the plague. You can also listen to previous episodes at nutritionheretic.com/podcast. Be sure to like us on social media for updates. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/nutritionheretic, and on Twitter @NutriHeretic. Contact us with show ideas, questions, or if you just want to be a guest. And don't forget to rate our podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. Thanks.